I'm Ali Patterson. On this episode of Fintech Finance, we're taking a look into the future of biometrics and how they're being implemented right now. We spoke with Monese, NatWest and Idex about their biometric solutions, third-party providers and their plans for the next few years. Firstly, Norris Koppel from Monese shared with us his insight into biometrics within financial services.
I think it's pretty clear that, again, it doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel. So, for example, there are quite few excellent companies out there who provide passport scanning or ID card scanning technologies. So there is no reason to reinvent. So you can outsource some of the functionality to those companies. The same with sort of a facial recognition and voice recognition, biometrics and all that. So we as a business, we want to put all these technologies together that it, in a way that it makes life easier for customers, right? So we don't need to necessarily reinvent everything ourselves. So we build our business thanks to relationships, partnerships that holds everything together like a glue.
Well, where do you see kind of the future of kind of biometrics as a whole moving forward? Do you see it kind of replacing passwords and PINs?
Yeah, there is quite a lot of interesting technologies popping up every now and then, and again, you have to look at from the customer's perspective. That's my logic, at least. So, for example, if you're forcing customers to take out their phones and in a busy train to say some keywords, then maybe the product doesn't work the way it should be intended. So it should be easy and convenient and frictionless. The same way I'm sometimes looking at even if you travel on London Tube. So if you have your contactless card, you're able to go through the gates pretty quickly. But if you have Apple Pay, for example, it adds like another half a second. That sometimes could be quite painful if you have 100 people after you. So in everything we do, we're trying to find technologies that are reducing the friction and they're making life easier. It could be biometrics, it could be video, it could be voice, it could be fingerprints, whatever. So we're always trying to find new ways.
Obviously, your customer touch points through the card and through the app. How do you look to engage and inspire loyalty with your customers through these touch points?
Yes, this is one of the areas that we are trying to improve constantly. So initially when we launched, it was all about, okay, let's make it super easy to onboard and let's focus on that, make sure that our customer support speaks 8 languages and its customers can bank in their own language and so on. But we are starting to optimize as we go now and as we mature. So obviously right now the key points, as you said, is the app and the card. So app and mobile phone is always going to be our core focus, whether it's some sort of a mobile notifications asking customers for, I don't know, feedback or giving them something good in exchange for some information or whatever. So we're always trying to improve there.
Doug Mackenzie then caught up with Damien Richardson from NatWest to talk a little bit about biometrics and the role within improving customer security.
I think the paramount importance is keeping our customers safe and their data safe and secure. That is number one. So there's always a challenge that we're always on the lookout for new ways to protect our customers. And biometrics is in that space. We already use Touch ID on the mobile phone to allow customers to access the mobile app. And I mentioned the BioCatch as a thing we use in our corporate channel. So I think it has a good place, and I think there's different techniques that we can use, not only with biometrics, but other data techniques that we can use to really protect our customers. So it's not just about having a key to the front door, but it's about how do we protect the house. So what are the security cameras we've got in place to once the customer's in we is still our customer, and we can protect the house, as it were, in terms of the customer and the customer data. So it's a continuing focus for us. It's all about keeping our customer and their customer data safe and secure.
We caught up with Idex to hear about their solutions and how biometrics are becoming more and more prevalent.
Biometrics have been around for decades. What are you guys at Idex really doing that's different to really bring this to the mainstream?
We are the first to have created something that is a mass deployable, low-cost solution that gives great user experience. And by virtue of being a sweet spot for our technology, So we feel we have enabled a solution now that is something that can be taken now and deployed and used by consumers all around the world. First really key attribute is to make it something that can work with cards that people are already using, that people are familiar with. So I think cards are really something that is a standard product that is used just as something like A4 paper. It's something that's set out and is conformed to across the world. Obviously, there's mobile deployment has already made people very familiar with putting a fingerprint verification into a phone. So people are very familiar with enrolling, using their fingers for different applications within an electronic device. What we're doing is bringing that to a card. And whether it's a payment card or an identity card, it's really coupling your identity directly with the payment transaction. So whereas currently, if you take a chip and pin card, that chip and pin is really working with a 4-digit number that is the authentication that's sent to you, but it's not you. So other people could have that card and use it if they have access to the pin or give them the pin. So the big difference is really coupling the identity together with payment. And clearly for applications, that opens up personalization, other applications where identity is really key. You know, digital identity is a big thing today. So having the knowledge that it is you that's using the card offers a number of new openings and new value-added services, particularly things, for example, a good example is financial inclusion, where we have welfare benefit distribution, which needs to get to a large population. The biggest challenge has been for those people in the population to prove their identity when they're taking a benefit or making a payment. This solves that problem because now the enrollment of that person on the card means that that card is coupled directly with that individual and no one else.
I wanted to hear about the balance that needs to be struck between developing solutions in-house and working with third-party providers.
So we've got a range of scouting locations. So we have scouts in Silicon Valley. Also we do trips to Israel. We've got, obviously we're based in London and in Edinburgh, so we have a scouting network there, which allows us to speak to sort of new fintechs, new startups, but also speak to some of the major names to understand sort of what they're doing. We also have within our premises a number of accelerators, and so for example we have arrangement with a partnership with eSparks, which is in a number of locations around the UK, where we have startups in our buildings and we mentor them and we have events with them and share ideas and best practices. So that allows us to get a really good insight. Also recently we have a San Francisco-based company, Rocket Space, in one of our premises in the UK, which again allows us to network and meet with these companies and really see, for first-hand what's going on. Thirdly, we have our technology centre in Edinburgh called the Open Experience, which allows us to really play with the technology and see what's going on with APIs or artificial intelligence or a range of new technologies that we keep an eye on. So there's multiple ways that we try to keep ahead or try to understand what's going on. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, okay, how can we use these technologies to improve our customer experience, to improve the customer pain points? I think that's our focus. How would we integrate those type of services, those sort of technologies to make the overall customer journey better?
So the main thing for us is to be enablers. So we want to enable the access to banking services and banking system. We want everyone to have that access. And right now in the modern world, over 2 billion people don't have that access for a variety of reasons. So naturally this means that we have to control the KYC or customer identity checks aspect as much as we can. So we are very focused on that, and currently the way we have built technology, the way we are regulated and registered by the FCA, this enables us to control that aspect. But everything else, we want to build as little as possible and as much as we need to in order to exist, in order to work with other existing systems and also to expand geographically. So we want to be doing this on a global scale. So right now we are in 20 countries, which is a little bit over 10% of the world countries out there, and we want to keep moving in that direction. And we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So for example, when it comes to credit and some other products, we don't necessarily need to be those lenders ourselves. In every jurisdiction, in every country, we could just partner with a bank or another fintech in order to give customers more choice and provide better experience. You don't need to build absolutely everything yourself in order to provide a great experience. So I know that many banks in the UK even, for example, they don't take care of the card processing themselves. They are relying on third parties. So when you start building a bank, literally you have to take everything apart and put it together again the way it works for you. So you don't necessarily need to do everything yourself.
Idex has a real solution focus. So what we bring to our partners and to the applications is an ability to solve new problems and create innovation. So Idex has a very, very innovative team, world-class talent around the world that we've assembled to take both the sensing technology, but also the software necessary to make it secure and convenient as a solution in many different applications. So we're able to really adapt our solution in a very powerful way for enabling new mass market biometric solutions that the market is now demanding.
Can we talk a little bit around the cost factor when it comes to implementing your solutions across a card network?
It's a cost performance question, because clearly in a payment card and being used by a very large demographic, it's got to work really well, really reliably. So our focus has been to give really unsurpassed biometric performance. So when you use it, it's extremely reliable and very user-friendly to operate, at the same time as keeping the cost down. And that's really where Idex's technology is unique. We have a technology that allows us to achieve both of those things together because our sensor is made of low-cost materials, in this case a polymer material. And that's an extremely low-cost material. It's something that is already mass-produced. We make it in large partners who have mass production in Asia. So this is using conventional electronics production at a very low cost. So first of all, our sensor achieves the challenges or solves the challenges of high performance and flexibility within a card. And up till now, the way that that has been attempted to do is to put a full circuit board into a card. And that's a very expensive challenge. Our solution doesn't need that. So the breakthrough is that our particular technology allows the total card cost to be at a level which is extremely attractive.
It makes no difference to the thickness of the card in regards to ATMs and the like.
The thickness, which is specified by ISO standards, which is 76 or 0.76 millimeters, has to be met. And our sensor is extremely thin, and that allows the sensor, when it's fitted into the card, not to change anything in terms of the thickness or form factor of the card.
After hearing about their views on collaboration, I was excited to hear about their plans for the future in this increasingly digitized industry.
We've announced some collaborations with a number of fintechs, over the recent year or so. A good one being the small business lending proposition that we call ESME, which allows small businesses to request loans up to 150,000 using some new technology and get an answer within a matter of hours. So, or actually a matter of minutes. So that's a step change in the capability. So that gives you an example of the type of propositions that we're looking at. Another company that we dealt with through our scouting from Israel, a company called Biometrics, that we use on a security point of view, which allows us to use biometric data to analyse if the person that we think is accessing our corporate channel is the person that is authorised to access our corporate channel by using biometric data that we collect as part of the login process. So that's just two examples of some of the fintechs, and you'll see us announce more fintech collaborations in the future, because I think there's a very active base there that we can work on.
As things move more and more into cyberspace, into large volume transactions and higher value transactions, clearly one of the nice things with biometrics is that you can enable higher value transactions with peace of mind, and of course at the same time there's a need to protect the identities and the credentials of the individual. So I think security is really a huge focus, and we touched on things of how to avoid what's called anti-spoof or liveness. I think these are all capabilities that we can upgrade solutions to really keep moving the convenience and security together at the same time. So as electronics get more sophisticated, as our sensors get more sophisticated, there's more we can do. So I think this will be a continuous evolution. I think the other big dynamic to me, we've talked a lot about fingerprint sensing, because in a card, really, there's very limited capability of what you can do, and fingerprint and our solution fits within those low power, low cost constraints, where you've got to do something almost for very little.
What's on your roadmap for the future, especially in terms of international expansion?
Geographical expansion is one of the key things that we want to do. Obviously, we want to serve our customers as well as possible. So the app and the experience has to be modern. Everything has to be fast, real time, and cheap, and so on. But yeah, I would say that geographical expansion, venturing outside UK and Europe is one of the key targets for us. When we expand to other countries, we have to ask ourselves what is where our customers live, where are they? And our customers typically seem to be our customer base is typically completely different compared to some other challenger banks or even high street banks that we are seeing. So our customers typically live in the country where they have not been born. They typically don't speak the language of that country as their native language. So in fact, typically they don't speak that language at all. So they are new people in those countries. When we are expanding or looking at countries where we want to go next, we're typically looking at where the pain is biggest, where the segments of our potential customer base, where are they located, and what are the concerns and problems. So at the moment, it is the places that we are looking at next are actually quite far from Europe. We're talking notably about some Asian countries and so on.
Are you looking to expand in other areas from a product perspective?
I would say focus is one of the key things that we have to be very much worried about. The world is full of shiny things and all sorts of opportunities and so on. So right now we are very focused on customer, private individuals, ensuring that they have access to banking systems anywhere pretty much, and also offer them things that they consider to be very much part of the banking, which is credit, saving products, and all sorts of things that other banks or challenger banks are currently offering.
And going back to the open banking question, I think you'll see that happening a lot more. So no doubt sort of fintechs that we'll collaborate with using the open banking APIs, but it also allows fintechs to access our capability themselves and create new propositions. And that's a really exciting potential from new services that we haven't even thought of yet, using the data that they can see, but also using other APIs from other places and then integrate that into a new service for our customers. And that's a really exciting thing that I'm really looking forward to.
So what I expect to see is multimodal biometrics becoming a much bigger thing, or multimodal intelligence in the sense the person's identity because they've authenticated, but you also know when they've done it, what sort of transactions, and you couple that with location information or with some other biometric that you know, and at that point you can really change the whole bar and move it up in terms of biometric security and overall security. So I think that's really, going to be a very big focal area for the industry going forward.
On the next episode of Fintech Finance, we take a look at the customer onboarding process and validation.